Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us again. If we got to see you last night, we are
Hi.
honored that you came back again. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've got a great segment. We are super excited to have two really fantastic experts with us tonight, wrapping up our second education event of the week. So we know we have more to come in November, but we're really happy that you're joining us this evening.
Yes, a very popular topic, Erin, right? I think this is the second time we actually are doing this topic because we wanted to make sure we got it right. We wanted to make sure we got it right. So thank you for jumping in. And we found just incredible experts, one you're very familiar with and one new to Unite for Her. So we're excited to introduce them both. But before we get started, Erin, shall we run through our sponsors as well?
Absolutely. And before we get to them, so today, if you are joining us, tonight's speaker series is all about being confident and radiant. We will learn all about applying makeup, everyday makeup for feeling our best. So that is our focus for this evening. And of course, we couldn't bring you these continued education segments without the support of our sponsors. So we are so grateful for our education sponsors. And tonight's speaker series is brought to you by West, Lilly, Novartis, and Gilead Sciences. We have additional support from our gold sponsors, Pfizer, GSK, and Daiichi Sankyo, and additional support from AbbVie, Tercera Therapeutics, and Veristem Oncology.
Wonderful. Yeah, we really appreciate all of the support that they give us. It allows us to bring such exciting, dynamic speakers on. And we do probably about 60 of these a year. The topics are, I feel, limitless. Our community tells us a lot of topics that they want to hear. So make sure that if you have not logged on to our library, please get in there because we have such a robust library with so many topics that you'll be able to really find not only the finest experts in the field on that topic, you'll have recordings. Sometimes they're partnered or they are shown with a deck that was presented that day that you can look at. So it is so important that you're familiar with the Her Library at Unite for Her.
Absolutely. And like I said, this is just the beginning of November. We still have more education segments coming to you. So very quickly, just some reminders for what we have coming up next week. So on Tuesday, November 18th at 6 p.m., we are talking about clinical trials and community voices, how we can advocate, inform, and connect about the power of clinical trials. So Sue and I will be joined by an incredible panel of experts of both researchers and research advocate patients that will be sharing their experience. And then we have a virtual hangout on Wednesday, November 19th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And it is our Cooking Methods 101, and our culinary dietitian team will be setting your holiday table. So together, our team will be preparing a four-course dinner, getting ready for Thanksgiving. And as always, we're really excited to cook with you in the kitchen. And of course, if you can't join us, don't worry, because just like tonight, our segments are recorded and available in our UFH Connect video library. You can view them at uniteforher.org/UFH Connect.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the chat for everyone so that you have access to it. A little bit about what I was talking about as well. And that can also lead you to the library, which is wonderful. Erin, I'm looking forward to being your sous chef again. No pun intended. I always like telling that little joke, but I love being in the kitchen with Erin and the team. It is a lot of fun
Yeah,
and I think a passion of mine as well.
yeah, we love it. We look forward to all of our Cooking Method 101 segments. So this will be a great way to wrap up or kick off the holidays, I should say.
Yeah.
So
All right.
before we kick off tonight,
Mm-hmm.
let's do a little bit of housekeeping to do a
Housekeeping.
lay of the land, because we know makeup
Yes.
and beauty is a hot topic in the Unite for Her community, and we love that. But we want to make sure we cover as much information as we can. So tonight, our experts will be running through our theme for our segment tonight. They'll be touching on skincare, makeup application, providing seasonal makeup tips, also some shopping tips, and just some normal good quality makeup practices like brushes and how to take care of them, how often to clean them. So know that we've got a lot of information coming to you. So we'll have time at the end for questions, but we want to make sure that we listen and cover as much of the information as we can. So know that Q&A will be jumping into that chat towards the end of our session tonight.
Perfect. And then towards the end, feel free then to hold your questions until the end and put them in the chat. Then Erin and I will go through them. Our thought is that you might have questions and they'll get answered right by our experts throughout this session. So we wanted you to sort of sit tight, write those down, like please ask them if they don't get answered, but hold them until the end because we know that there's going to be quite a bit of questions that, we're going to be presented to our two experts here.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, should we get started?
I would love to. All right,
Great.
I think we bring on our first guest, and she is no stranger to Unite for Her. That is Jolene Hart. Hi there, Jolene. Thank you for
Hi,
being
it's
here.
so good to be here. What a fun night to share with you all.
Jolene has been a part of our community, I feel like, since the beginning. Since the beginning. Those first wellness days, I always just love seeing her face because I feel like we have grown up together at Unite for Her. Her just leading in that beautiful best-selling world of books that she has published. She is the best-selling author of the Eat Pretty series. It includes Eat Pretty Every Day, Live Well Every Day, Ignite Your Light, Shine On, Well Rested Every Day. Just an incredible series. I love it. I love the Well Rested Every Day because I know how much it's important to our community. It's like if we could only have a prescription for rest, Jolene.
It's
So
so
that book
true.
is so vital.
And I
But
only
she
write
is
the books that I need. I need that one too.
yeah, I love that, right? And she's been our beauty advisor for years, also a former beauty magazine editor and a certified health and beauty coach. So, Jolene, thank you for always bringing your best to Unite for Her and your time and your expertise. We appreciate you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And I think tonight, by bringing my best, it's actually bringing our next guest, who is a longtime friend of mine and actually a veteran makeup artist with an incredible history in the beauty industry. So I think we need to get her out here.
Beautiful. We got her.
Absolutely. Yep. So I'll share quickly just a little bit about Rebecca Casciano. So we are so excited. She has been a beauty and wellness coach with 25 years of experience, helping women embrace their natural beauty from the inside out. Her journey began as a professional makeup artist in New York, working with iconic women like Toni Morrison, Mary J. Blige, and the one and only Martha Stewart. Rebecca's makeup artistry appeared in fashion runways and in magazines like Elle and Essence. Yet behind the scenes, she struggled with chronic cystic acne that challenged her ability to feel beautiful. After finding little relief from conventional treatments, she turned to a holistic approach, transitioning to a plant-based diet, embracing natural healing practices like acupuncture and mindfulness. This transformation led to her not only having clearer skin, but a profound shift in her understanding of the connection between beauty and wellness, which we know is no mystery here at Unite for Her. So we are so happy to have her this evening, sharing her expertise with us. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with your community.
Yeah, so much alignment, Rebecca. I am so glad that you are here tonight, and hopefully you're going to learn so much about us that you're going to be like, oh, such a good alignment.
Yes, absolutely. I can already feel it. Anything that involves Jolene Hart, I'm there.
Oh, let that connect.
Beautiful, beautiful.
All
So
right.
we'll kick off our theme, everyday makeup for feeling your best. There's so many angles we can take when it comes to makeup. And I know this time of year we're thinking of maybe party makeup and maybe evening makeup, but we wanted to just start with the basics. And in my field, when I write about skincare and also about makeup, I think about the energy shifter that it is for us, the power it gives us by taking us out of the way we feel and changing it to something else. If we need it to be uplifted, if we need to shift our mind, makeup and skincare do that for us. And so tonight we're going to be talking about how to use that tool to feel our best from the inside, but also to show up as our best on the outside.
I love it. And I am so aligned with everything that you just shared, Jolene. And I just want to share a little bit more about my makeup philosophy before we begin the demo. So, over the years, I've learned from my personal and professional experience that beauty isn't just about how we look, it's about how we feel. And makeup, when we use it with intention, can be such a powerful tool for helping us feel confident and radiant. And I know that so many of us grew up thinking that makeup is about covering or hiding something. And in some ways it is. But I like to think of it more as a powerful ritual that helps us reconnect with ourselves, especially during times of transition. One day that might mean a tinted moisturizer and a lip balm, and another day that could be something more dramatic and playful. There's really no rules when it comes to makeup. It's all about what makes you look and feel your best. And clean beauty plays a role in that as well, because it's not just about what we put on our skin, it's about connecting with mindfulness and showing up for how we want to be in the world. So it's what we put on our skin, it's how we speak to ourselves, it's the energy that we bring to it all, and it's all connected. So tonight, I invite you to watch with an open mind and curiosity. Notice how small shifts like a pop of color or a simple technique can make a big difference in your beauty routine. And over our time together, my hope is that you take away fresh inspiration, a few new insights, and most importantly, the reminder that your radiance is always within you, but sometimes it does need a little boost to shine through. So with that, I'm just going to transition my setup here and we'll begin our everyday makeup and we'll kick this off. So just give me one moment and I'll bring my model in. Michelle?
Great. So we're going to transition to having Rebecca and Michelle be center stage, spotlighted. I will still be here in the conversation.
Bit more, yeah.
I will have lots of questions too, because I'm always learning from Rebecca every time she does makeup. And we can give her the full focus and attention.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle, for being here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Michelle.
How's
You're
this?
already
Can you
so
see us okay?
gorgeous.
I know. I got
She's
lucky.
glowing. She is glowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't see her.
Oh,
Is everybody okay, or is that just one of our women? Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody see
you look
Michelle
pretty
okay?
good.
She's pinned
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, I'm
If
gonna
you
move
go to
over
the
a little
view,
bit so you see a little bit more of Michelle and less of me.
I can
yeah.
see
No,
her.
we can see. We can
How's
see. It's
that?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go back to the way you were.
In the
It was-
top right corner of your Zoom, there's a view option, and if you choose speaker view, that might help you to see her better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Jilly.
to start off, I'm going to prep Michelle's skin, and I believe in very simple skincare. We can always do multiple steps, and there's so many great products out there to use. But today I'm just going to start with a simple facial oil. This is Live Botanical, and you'll get a recap with all the products. But right now I really want to focus on the actual products, not so much the names, but what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Sound good? So I'm just going to start with a small drop of this oil because you don't need a lot. And I'm just going to warm it up with my hands and gently press it into her skin. So it's important to have a really great moisturizer, and I love plant-based facial oils because they really mimic the natural oils of the skin and they help your skin stay moisturized and hydrated over time. So just adding a little bit of glow. As you could see, her skin was pretty glowy as it is, but having a little bit of moisturizer is just going to help everything slide on more easily.
I love that. And I'm always encouraging women to use more plant-based oils, to not be afraid of oil. Any
Yes,
kind of dewiness and glow from the skin, to our eye, that signals youthfulness, right? And we need to have that moisture in your skin to get that effect. We can fake it as we get older and we have less oil in our skin. So don't be afraid of those plant-based oils.
absolutely agree. Next, I'm going to do a lip balm to prep her lips. You can't see that very well. I'm not sure, my camera's a little bit blurry. Lip balm, also super important, especially as we go into winter, because the The air is cold and dry. We have heat going on inside, so it's very easy to get parched lips. So this is part of the prep because it gives the lips a chance to get moisturized and the products settle in before we do any lipstick or gloss or anything like that. So very important. Typically, I like to let the skincare sit for about 5 or 10 minutes just so it has a chance to be absorbed into the skin a little bit, but we're going to keep going on with our makeup application. I like to start with looking at the skin and figuring out what do I want to do that day. So Michelle has really clear, really glowy skin, so I'm going to do a very light foundation. It's actually going to be a tinted sunscreen. And those are great because it's kind of like 2 or 3 products in one. So you have the sunscreen, you have a little bit of moisturizer, and then you also have a little bit of color. So it does a great job at evening out the skin without feeling really heavy. So foundation is used to even out redness or discoloration and just kind of give you a nice clear canvas for your makeup application. And I'm just going to start over here. And it really doesn't matter where on the face you start. I'm using a flat brush. You can also use your fingers. When I apply makeup on myself, I definitely just use my fingers. But if you like the feel of a brush, a stiff brush like this is great. And it kind of helps you get into little crevices around the nose and things like that. And you always want to make sure that your foundation is a really good match. So you shouldn't see any line of demarcation here. You want to make sure that it blends in with your neck. So if you're in the store and you're trying it on your hand, it's okay to kind of get a feel for it, but your hand is going to be a different color than your face. So going straight to the face and the jawline here is going to be where you want to make your blend. And of course, if you want it to be a little darker or lighter, that's also your prerogative, but typically we want it to match as closely as possible.
Meaning you might need to change your foundation shade for the winter sometimes. Do you ever do that or recommend that?
Yes, absolutely. That too. When Michelle came, she said, "Oh, I'm just losing my summer
Yeah,
glow. So I'm kind of in between my summer tan and my winter skin, you know." So,
right.
that's always going to be a factor, especially if you do take sun on your face. So
Mhm.
sometimes you might have to cheat it a little bit,
Right.
maybe go a little bit darker, even if, maybe your neck is one color, but your face has gotten lighter. And some people like for their face to appear a little bit darker, even
Mhm.
during the winter months when they might be a little bit more pale. So just like all of makeup, it's a personal preference, but definitely looking for a good match just so it blends into the skin. We don't really want it to look, like anything too obvious, of course. So making sure it's a good match and just blending in short strokes around the face, just this little tiny bit. And of course, with foundation, there's so many different textures as well, different finishes, whether you want it to be matte or dewy, if you want sheer coverage or full coverage, medium coverage. There's many, many different options. When you go into the store, you can see, just by walking around Sephora or any department store, the options are endless. So a lot of it depends on your personal preferences, how you want the foundation to look, as well as what your skin likes. Like, is your skin typically
Yep.
dry? Is it on the oilier side? You may want to choose based on that. If it's dry, you might want something more creamy and emollient. If it's oily, unless you really want it to be shiny, which is also a look, you could go with something that might be a little bit more mattifying, like a powder or a cream foundation that has some type of mattifying ingredient. So this is kind of the base, so it's always going to change based on what your preference and skin type is.
It really is so personal. And I feel like for the longest time, finding that perfect tinted moisturizer with SPF or foundation was like, the holy grail for clean makeup for me. It took so much trial and error to hone in on what my skin liked because it really is so personal. Like someone's favorite might not work on you. And it just takes a lot of trying and figuring out, what you like, what works well on your skin. But once you do, I feel like that is half of your makeup look because your skin is, it's so much of the surface area, it's so much of what you see, and it's that foundation, that canvas for everything else that you play with, right?
Absolutely, Jolene. So true. And speaking of that, the foundation is definitely one of the products that I encourage clients to swap over first if they're looking to change their products over from conventional makeup to clean beauty, because it's something that we wear over the largest area of our skin, right? And throughout the day, we put it on in the morning, we wear it till, 10 hours maybe until we take it off at the end of the night. Very important to take it off at the end of the night, just mentioning
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Skincare purposes, do not fall asleep with your makeup on.
That's our next segment, taking it all off.
Yes, exactly.
And
So
yeah,
now
when
going
you're
in with a little bit of concealer, which
Mhm.
is also something you could just go to if you want to skip foundation altogether. That's kind of how I've been doing it lately, is just using concealer in the areas that I need it, blending into the surrounding areas. And the areas that typically need it are under the eye. We'll have a lot of darkness sometimes, and that could make our eyes look a little bit tired. So having a little drop of foundation under the eyes really makes a huge difference right away. I don't know if you can see, if you could go head on a little bit. She doesn't have much in terms of dark circles
here.
either, but yeah, you can see how it brightens up there.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. And so I'll do a little bit. I'll start right here in the inner corner of the eye. And again, I'm using a flat synthetic brush for this, but you can definitely use your fingers. And I'm just starting there and kind of just feathering it out and making sure that it blends into the area beneath it. I also like to take a little bit of foundation and put it over the lids. That gives a nice grippy texture for the powder shadow to grab onto. If you ever notice, like if you just try to apply powder on your eyelids and it just kind of flies everywhere and you're not really getting it to give you the color payoff you want, having a concealer as a little bit of a base is great. And again, very little. If you put too much, it'll become too creamy and it'll crease a lot easier. So just a little bit, but it just kind of, again, gives you a nice even canvas and takes down any darkness or, the eyelids tend to be very thin. So sometimes the veins show through or the lids can be kind of purpley, which is fine. We could work with that too. But this kind of just gives everything a very even finish. And then usually the areas around the nose tend to be a little bit red, so I'll pop a little bit of concealer under there.
You mentioned creases in makeup, and I have to say,
Yes.
as our skin ages, we get a little drier, we start to see the creases become more prominent. As I play around with my own makeup, I notice the better hydrated my skin is, the less creases I'm getting, the less obvious
Mm.
dryness. Is that your approach too, or do you have other ways of avoiding that common pitfall?
Yeah, definitely. The water and the nutrition is so important just to kind of get the skin to a more kind of plump, glowy place, right? But also layering products. So what I'm going to do next is powder everything, and that really helps kind of seal what we've done and helps to take away a little bit of shine. And also when you layer products and makeup, it gives them more longevity. So that kind of goes also to the point of like why I'm putting a little bit of product on the eyes as well. So anytime you're layering, you're creating a little bit more opacity, and you're kind of limiting the ability for the product to travel around.
I love that. This is why we have the pro here. Just the
Good.
comment that it looks
Yeah.
so dewy and beautiful. That's audience comment.
Oh,
Look
yes. Yeah,
gorgeous.
exactly. I know. I'm spoiled with Michelle's skin here, but
I know.
if it was my own face, I'd be, if you have blemishes, I'll just talk about that for a minute. If you have any blemishes or darker spots that you need to a little bit more coverage on. So concealer is basically something it has an opaque finish. So it's going to give you more coverage than foundation, because sometimes women ask, what's the difference? Why do I need concealer? So concealer has that extra bit of oomph that's going to actually give you the coverage for things like dark circles, acne scars, sunspots. So if I was doing it on myself, I would go in like here and I tap lightly, just kind of like we call it stippling. If you have a little red mark, you're just going to want to tap it on there, not brush it, because you're kind of brushing it off. So it's really about the motion of, like, say, for example, we wanted to cover this beautiful mole, which we don't, but we'd be just kind of tapping the concealer right on there and just kind of blending the edges. And I do like using like my ring finger for that, because you're able to have a lot of control there. And just remember, you're just kind of tapping on that area. And then you're finishing it off with a pressed powder or a powder foundation. Powder foundation is also a great option if you just want to kind of throw something on and go. It just really evens out your skin tone without adding a bunch of extra cream and things like that. Can also give you some sun protection. So foundations do have titanium dioxide, which helps to block from the sun. So I find because I do wear makeup, that helps me, you know, with blocking the sun actually. So it does have another purpose, which is nice as well. So I'm just taking a soft, fluffy brush and I'm just gonna brush this all over her face. So no real rhyme or reason here, just kind of going over everything I've done. You always want to make sure it's like a large, this is a flat head brush, which is great. You can also use something like this. Sorry, I don't know why it's so blurry. But either one, soft and fluffy, and just like a sheer layer of powder, just to kind of finish it off. Another skincare product that I meant to mention earlier, but I'll talk about it now, is Hydrosol. And hydrosols are like a facial mist with that's made with flowers, plants, herbs, and they're distilled in a water base. And they help to kind of soothe the skin. They bring moisture to the skin. It's like taking a drink of water from the outside for your skin. And they also kind of set everything as well, especially if it's gotten like a little bit powdery or if you want to bring a little bit more life into your skin. I also love having these on my desk. So if I'm sleepy during the day, I give myself a little boost with a spray of Hydrosol. So this is a must-have. I'm just going to give her a quick mist and one for me. And it's just like a moment, like just take a deep breath. That's another thing that I really encourage with your makeup ritual is to make it a ritual. Make it that time where you're sitting down with yourself, you're in the mirror, light a candle, play a meditation or some soothing music, and just use it as an opportunity to breathe and just connect with yourself.
Yeah, that's where the energy shift happens when you give yourself that opportunity.
Absolutely. So next we'll do a blush, and there's a couple of different ways you could do blush. There's cream and powder. Those are the most popular. There's also different types of tints and stains, and again, various categories. I like powder blush, especially if you have kind of uneven skin tone. Cream blush could be great if your skin is really clear and smooth like Michelle's, but if you do have texture like I do from acne scarring, I can't do a cream blush. So it really depends on your skin. Cream blush is really nice for just like a quick little, you know, glow. It's definitely good for dry skin as well. I'm going to use a powder blush, and this is in kind of like a coppery peach color. A blush also can be so many different shades, and depending on your skin tone and what, you know, what feels good for you. I kind of love like big rosy cheeks personally, but a lot of women are really scared of blush, or they don't want to look like a, you know, someone they just showed up from the 80s, or, you know, they're afraid of blush. But I think it kind of pulls the whole look together, and I'm a big fan. So I'm going to start with also a round fluffy brush right here at the apples of the cheek, and just go in circular motion along the cheekbone. So if you want, you could smile. And this is the apple here, this round part right here. And then you could see the cheekbone goes in kind of like a diagonal right here. And you could even like feel it out on yourself to see. So you could do this, but I like this. So it's more like little mini C's or O's versus that kind of back and forth that ends up with kind of a stripy look.
Right. Yours looks much more natural. You know, it just looks like it blends in so well.
Yeah, so it gives her a little pop. And then if you do too much, like I feel like that's a little bit bright. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit of powder and just blend it out.
Ooh, nice. That tones it down immediately.
Yeah, so makeup is all about just like a series of tweaks, right? It's always about just kind of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And you're kind of going
Mhm.
back and forth. I always like to have those brushes that are kind of like your blenders or erasers, where you're going to use maybe a little bit of a lighter product to kind of blend out the edges. Just turn that way for me. Other way. Perfect.
I feel like the other must-have for this makeup look, for any makeup look, is having good lighting. And that's something that I struggle with too. If you don't have the right lighting when you're putting on makeup and then you go outside and you realize you put on too much or too
Oh
little.
yeah.
So it's also another essential, right? Is like being able to see your face well lit so you can gauge what the colors are doing.
Absolutely. Yes, natural light is best if you could sit in front of a window.
Mhm.
Otherwise, thankfully, we have a lot of great ring lights and
Right.
different types of attachments, like the one that I'm using now. It was nice and bright earlier, but I said I better use this because we need that little extra something.
Yeah,
So it's great that we have all those options now to actually see our face a little bit better inside.
definitely.
So if I was going to do a cream blush, we could do something like this. This is from Axiology, and in that case, I would just put a little bit either on my finger or directly on her cheek and just tap it on and blend it with my finger. So very similar in terms of placement. It's just a different product. So just adding a little bit on there so you could kind of get an idea of it. Again, personal preference. They both look really great.
I'm a big fan of the creams because you can do multi-purpose. So you can do lip and cheek and be really, multitask there. And if someone is overwhelmed by too many makeup products, it's a nice way to go.
Absolutely. So you can see how that just kind of defines her bone structure a little bit, adds a little bit of color and kind of, vibrancy to her face. And really we're just trying to mimic that natural, kind of pigment that happens when you're feeling flushed from a good walk or feeling excited or, that's kind of what we're going for here. So I think it looks great, even just on its own. Blush,
Back here on the
foundation.
camera is gorgeous. It looks amazing.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. So after we do that, I'm going to move on to her brows. And brows can be a tricky one, especially if you're dealing with hair loss issues. There are many different ways that you could approach it. We have pencil, we have gel, we have powder, a lot of different textures that we can use to help kind of define the brow and fill in the areas where you may have some hair loss. Or you might want the brows to look a little bit different than they do. So Michelle actually has her brows done permanently. So she doesn't have a lot to fill in right now, but I am going to go in with a little bit of pencil just to kind of show you what I would do.
Mhm.
That is also an option. That's a more semi-permanent option, and I think it looks quite natural if you find the right person. I was actually surprised when I saw her. I was like, "Wait, is that makeup?" She's like, "No."
Wow, yeah,
I
that's
forgot you
great.
got those done. So, it's helpful because it's like one less thing to think about. So I'm,
Yes,
I'm very
definitely.
tempted myself, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, because that's one thing. I mean, I find that even if I do no makeup at all, I kind of have to do a little something on my brows.
Yep.
Otherwise, I just don't have, I have 90s brows, right? Like I plucked them when I was in high school and they're still very thin and they're light to go with my hair color. So it's something that I always need to define. So that is tempting to have something done permanently. But I find that just giving it a little bit of extra coverage is kind of like where I feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah, same here. So this is a very thin pencil
Mhm.
with a little brow brush on the other end.
Mhm.
And I don't,
The blurs on the black background.
I
That's
thought I
why.
took it
If
off.
you try putting it like in front of your faces are very clear. What if you put it in front
Okay.
of your face? Like in front of,
Yeah.
yeah, put it. Oh, no, I don't know. It's still blurry. What
It's
about
weird
going?
because I turned the blur my background, adjust background. Let me just look really quick.
Oh
That's
yeah, maybe it's blurring it because it's in the background.
Mm, Okay, sorry, y'all.
I was gonna say if you hold it in front of your face because your face is so clear, so now you can see it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's still a little tricky, but you can see at least what the end is. So it's a little spoolie end, a little brush end.
Yes. So I love this because it's very, very thin. The point is very thin, so it
Hmm.
allows you to really create like hair-like strokes.
Hmm.
Um, and it gives you precision. So that's the benefit of a pencil. Sometimes pencils can be a little waxy looking. So if your brow hairs are very thin, it could be a little bit difficult to create a realistic looking brow, to be quite honest with you, unless you're really skilled at creating those hair-like strokes. But it is an option. And again, just giving the illusion of like some depth there and some definition to the brow. And brows should typically line up with the inner corner of the eye or the nose. So I like to kind of use the brow as a little bit of a measuring tool. And then if you go off to the side, you kind of want them to hit on an angle from the outer corner of the nose. So that's just like some of the measurements that we do kind of in our mind as we're looking at brows as makeup artists and figuring out like where should they start and where should they
Mhm.
end. And of course, like having like a nice little arch in here is great. So I'm going to go ahead and start where I normally would, which would be here in the middle. And you could just kind of watch the strokes that I'm doing. They're just like short hair-like strokes. So I'm not dragging anything. I'm not drawing any line. I'm literally trying to mimic the natural growth of the hair. And we have the front of the brow, we have the arch, and we have the tail. And the tail should just kind of taper off to a point. And again, depends on your brow and what you're looking to create. Brows are also super personal. And everyone's going to want a little bit of a different look, but you kind of want to just bring it to a point and just lightly tap in the hairs. And then I like to use the other side to brush it through. So brushing it through kind of takes away any lines and makes it very smooth. Next, we'll go to the other side. And
What
again,
would you recommend, Rebecca, for if you were going for filling in your brow? So we have a comment about 50% brow loss going through chemo and just trouble finding a product that is looking natural. She also says that her skin is drier. So where would you go? Would you go for a cream, like the sort of cream pencil?
mm-hmm. Yeah, I would try a cream. You can also try, this is the Jane Iredale, by the way, and you'll
Mhm.
get this in the link to my Shop My Shelf after the session, so you can kind of peruse the products that I'm using today. Um, but I would try a cream if your skin is on the drier side, and try to choose a color that's like maybe a shade lighter than your natural brow color.
Mhm.
Of course, we want to match our hair color too, so that's always kind of like something to play with a little bit. We want to make sure that the brow is not too dark, because when it's too dark, it definitely tends to look unnatural. So going on the lighter side of things, is a good place to start. And using a product that has a very fine point versus like um, a thicker kind of tip, could be helpful, give you a little bit more control. Another option would be to use a powder, like in the shade of your hair color. Let me see what I have here.
And of course, if you're going through treatment and you've lost your hair, then are going to want to play with if you're wearing a wig, if you are wearing a scarf or head covering, the shade that looks the most natural with your, I guess, your skin tone and your eyes. Is that where you would start?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Or the shade that your hair was,
Mhm.
kind of thinking about that, just trying to get as close of a match as possible. And again, use that brush to brush it through. Um, Even as a trained makeup artist with a lot of experience, brows can be very difficult. So also be gentle with yourself,
Yeah.
and just do the best that you can. We can't really recreate that. We can just kind of recreate the look of it. So
Mhm.
you just have to kind of play with the different types of products and see what feels like it works best for you. The other option I was going to mention is eyeshadow or like a brow pomade on an
Mhm.
angled brush like this,
Hmm. I can see that. Yep.
small angled brush. And pretty much the same thing, short strokes. And even this is actually just changing her brow color a little bit, which I kind of like because the initial color is like a little bit grayish now. So I'm adding a little bit of warmth. I don't know if you could tell the difference, but I'm just using like a brown color and it's just bringing a little bit of warmth in there. And sometimes it's about using a couple different colors in the brow. So you could get real creative,
Yeah.
and have two different browns and kind of go in with a darker one and then add a lighter one just to kind of play with color and dimension and see what you can get in terms of, how realistic you can get it. Sometimes it does take more than one color.
That's a great tip. And our comment was just from someone who said that she has a mix of gray and black in her brows. So you might decide that you want to try going more toward your original darker hair color, or you might want to mix it up and have two, so you're sort of playing off the dimension like Rebecca suggested.
Yeah, and you could choose a lighter shade like a taupe or something.
Mhm.
If you find that you have some grays in there and you want it to kind of match so it's not fully dark,
Yep.
try using something like a little bit more like a taupe or a more neutral brown, depending on your skin tone. So her brows are pretty much done. The last thing I'm going to do and I'll do this after, remind me if I forget, is brow gel. So brow gel is also a great tool to have to kind of brush your brows into shape. It could give them
Mhm.
a little bit of fullness and just kind of set them where you want them to be. They also have a lot of great pomades that are kind of like a tinted brow gel, and that gives a little bit of color to the brows as well. If you don't feel like doing all that, drawing them, now they have so many great options for just adding a little bit of color with a lash wand, and that kind of gives them some definition without getting into the weeds of all of the, pencils and being very precise about it. Just kind of gives them a little bit of color.
And if you've drawn on your brows, so you've lost your brows and you've drawn them, is there anything that you would set them with at the end instead of the gel? Any kind of a,
No,
just leave them because the pomade should stay. It has staying power.
yeah, I would use gel over pretty much anything because the hairs are still going to need a little something to set, depending on how much hair
Right.
you
If
have
you
there.
and if you didn't have any, you would just kind of leave it.
Yes, sorry. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. So now I'm going to go on to the eyes, and I'm going to start with a light color on her brow bone because I love to have that be like a little bit of pop here. And the light just gives like a nice little highlight to the lid. I go all the way to the inner corner, and I'm just going to go ahead and brush it across her whole lid.
It's so pretty, and it doesn't scream eyeshadow. It just it just looks like the light is reflecting off of her skin there, which I love.
Yes, exactly. And if you were just going to do one thing on your eyes, it could be this because it
Mhm.
does give like a nice little glow, and it also is a great base for other eyeshadows. And I'm just using a soft, fluffy brush.
Mhm.
So if you're going to use brushes for anything, eyeshadow is the most important thing to have brushes for because it's very difficult to blend powder shadows with your fingers.
Mm.
And brushes do so much of the work for you and give you like a nice soft application. So the softer the brush, the fuller the brush, the more of a sheer soft application you're going to get. The stiffer the brush, like if you use something like a flat brush like this, it's going to give you a more dense, more opaque application. So if you're wanting a little bit more drama or you really want to pack it on, a stiffer brush is going to be the way to go.
Okay.
And most of my brushes are Eco Tools, which are really affordable. Great way to get a brush set. If you've never had brushes before, it's a great place to start. They might not last forever, but I've had mine for quite a long time. And they're all vegan and cruelty-free and all that good stuff. So
Right. Yeah, and they're widely available.
exactly. Okay, so next I'm just going to go into, so eyeshadow is a tricky one. I think a lot of people avoid it because it does take a little bit of skill to apply it and to know where to put it. But it can also add a little bit to the eye, and it doesn't have to be hard. So I'm just going to do two eyeshadow look here. I'm going to take like a bronzy brown color and add it to her lid. And I'm going to use that stiffer brush for that because I really just want it to go right on her eyelid. And that's going to be from her lashes to about the crease of her eye here, right underneath the brow bone. I'm using shimmer eyeshadow because I just like the little extra something that it gives, but you could absolutely use matte. Matte has no shine, so you might prefer to start with something like that, although I do find that matte could be a little bit harder to blend. So I like using like a satin finish or something with a little shimmer to it. Now I feel like this is a little bit bright. Let's see. There we go. And it's nice when you have two colors like this that you don't have a big line of demarcation to worry about, especially if you're new to eyeshadow. Don't try to go to like a smoky eye or a really dark shadow first, because it's going to take you a little bit of practice to learn the blending techniques. So just choosing something for every day. This is just like a soft brown and like a champagne kind of highlight. You could open your eyes, Michelle.
Beautiful. And yeah, they're so neutral and subtle.
Okay. Next, I'm going to do a little bit of eyeliner. Again, eyeliner is a great way to define your eyes. If your lashes are sparse, it also adds definition and depth to the eyes. You can choose any range of colors. I like a black or brown, especially brown to start. Usually gives you a little bit of a more natural look. Of course, black is great if you want a little bit more drama. This is a pencil. Again, you could use cream, liquid. There's many different types. This is like a nice soft kohl pencil, which makes it easy to blend. And it's kind of like in a purpley, oops, a little bit of a plummy brown color. So I'm just going to start that right at her lash line. And again, using small strokes.
And we did have a question about eyelash loss. So I'd like to highlight your recommendation that having a good eyeliner is a nice way to balance that, because you do get the illusion of thickness at your lash line.
Exactly. Just open for me, Michelle. Awesome. And just look down for me. Perfect. So I always say go from the inner to the outer corner. Unless you're really trying to do a specific look, it elongates your eye when you go from corner to corner versus just doing like half an eye. I see a lot of women doing like the outer half, which definitely gives a little bit of a lift to the outer corner, but it elongates your eye a little bit more when you go from the inner to the outer corner. Just gonna stand a little bit for this one.
This is where we can see that you're a professional makeup artist, because you have such a steady hand.
Yeah.
Your line is absolutely perfect.
It does take time for sure. And if it's not perfect, what I like to do is grab that angled brush, the one that I use for the brows. This one's super great and important, and just go right over it and blend out any lines or any uneven areas with your brush.
Now, does it matter to put on liner before or after your eyeshadow?
Yes, definitely after, because if you put it on underneath, then you're going to end up covering up the liner a little bit with your powder shadow. So liner is always at the end when you're done with the eyeshadow. And of course, you could do a lot more on the eyes, but for every day, I think just having two colors that complement each other, complement your skin, just gives like a nice kind of polished, finished look to the eye. And then the liner just adds a little bit of depth. So you could kind of see the difference. She's got a nicely defined eye. You can also do liner underneath the eye. I tend to usually just keep it to the top. The adding it to the bottom does add more definition, but you kind of have to think about it like smudging and running a bit. So that could be a little bit tricky. And also as we age, all the little fine lines under there can contribute to that. So I tend to just keep it on the top lid. That's what I'm going to do for Michelle today, but you can absolutely add it to the lower lid as well. Another way of applying eyeliner, if you feel like you can't keep that steady hand, is by using that angled brush with an eyeshadow. So you can literally turn any eyeshadow into an eyeliner with this angled brush. So you can choose a dark brown, a black, a purple, a blue, any color you have, and just use this angled brush. You could put a little bit on your hand. Sometimes even dampening the brush with a little bit of water is helpful, and that really gives you a very nice line. And some people find it much easier to use an angled brush than a pencil. So it's something to experiment with.
That's a great tip. Sue asked if using eyeliner or powder on the waterline would be helpful for creating a lash line.
Yes, absolutely. Putting it on the waterline, the inner or the underneath, the top or the bottom. You could absolutely do liner on either one of those. It does tend to kind of close the eye a little bit, but some people love that look. So yes, absolutely. Adding a definition underneath, adding powder underneath. You could even do cream liner on top and powder on the lower. That definitely adds more definition to your eye for sure.
Is that just personal preference, or do you say like doing that type of liner would be more of an evening look versus day?
Not necessarily. It's also personal, you know,
Mhm.
like my everyday look might be someone else's like, oh my gosh, I would never wear that every day. You
Sure.
know, like that's my like photo shoot makeup or my like, you know, going
Right.
to an event makeup. So it's really so personal. I think for everyday makeup, I see most women leaning more towards less is more. Uh,
Mhm.
but some women love eyeliner and they're like, that's the only thing I'll wear. Like I don't feel like myself without eyeliner all over my eye, you know? And
Right.
so it's really so personal, Jolene. And just look down for me. I'm going to do a little bit of lash curling quickly. And this just lifts up the lashes and kind of gives you that wide open look, open eye look. It's a little tricky sometimes grabbing them. Is that okay? Okay. And if your lashes are straight, it might take a while. You're just kind of gonna grab them in there and squeeze. It does make a difference though. Before you apply the mascara. I also wanted to mention false
Yes.
lashes. These are individual bunches. I find them a lot easier to put on than strip lashes personally, like on myself. So these are a fun way to kind of add in like areas that you might have, you know, less hair on your eyes. And then we
Mhm.
also have like strip lashes,
Mhm.
which I would also always look for like the shortest pair to get like the most natural look. And of course, we have eyelash extensions, which I personally don't recommend because anything that glues hair to your face for several weeks is probably not something you want to use.
Not the most
At least for
natural of
at least
makeup
for
choices.
myself. Again, tempting. It looks beautiful,
Mhm.
but something to consider, especially if you're susceptible to, you know, any infection or any irritation that might happen with that level of glue. Sticking with something more like a great mascara, some eyeliner, and maybe a few little falsies that you can glue in easily would probably be a good way to go. Next, I'm going to do a little bit of mascara just to define the lashes a bit. Mascara is also one of those things that a lot of women say, oh, I can't live without it. It makes my eyes look awake. Just look down for me, actually. Perfect.
Do you have any recommendations for hooded eyes? We had one comment, and I know this is a common issue. That liner tends to transfer when eyes are hooded. So the liner ends up on your upper lid.
Yep.
Happens all the time. What are your recommendations for possibly avoiding that?
I think you could potentially try like a primer on the lid, something that kind of makes the eyeshadow and eyeliner stay a little bit better. They do sell those. It's like an independent thing that you can add to your um, eyelid before you apply your eyeshadow.
Mhm.
You could also try something like a liquid liner, which does take a steady hand and a little bit more practice, but would be less likely to transfer once it's dry.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And there are some nice natural liquid liners out there.
Yes.
Tiny dots are the trick that always seems to work rather than trying to do one swipe of a line. Tiny
Yes,
dots along the
exactly.
lash line.
And you could also just go with like a little bit more of a smoky look on the eye instead of trying to get that perfect liner, have it be more of a sunset look. So it's like darker along the lashes and then it blends gradually as it gets to the crease of the eye. So kind of just using your eyes, in a different, using the makeup a different way on your eyes and not so much thinking of it as like one defined line, but maybe a more defined lid or a smokier lid that just blends in naturally. So it's okay if it's a little, smudgy, it just blends in with the rest of the eye makeup. That's perfect. You can keep looking down.
And Erin just shared a link to Rebecca's Shop My Shelf, which is a collection of everything that she's using tonight, along with items that she recommends. So you have an assortment there to look through. So if you're curious about products, definitely check out the link.
Okay, so we just did a little bit of mascara. I can keep going on with that, but I see that we are somehow almost at 4 p.m. I mean, 4 p.m. my time. So a couple more things, then we'll wrap up and get some questions in, and hopefully we can get everying that we
Yeah,
need
you've done a
covered.
great job with questions along the way. So I think we've gotten through a lot of them.
Okay, awesome. I wanted to go in and just do, oops, not that one, a little brow set gel. And just a little bit of contour. I know that was one of the questions. I just want to touch on contouring. I personally don't think contouring is an everyday makeup thing unless there's a reason that you really want to contour your face. So contouring just is a product that's a shade or two darker than your skin tone that's used to define your bone structure. It was traditionally used for film and TV, but makeup trends have brought it to everyday use, or brought it to the masses, I should say. I personally think that it's an extra step that you may or may not want to do. But I'll show you how to do it just in case you want to. I'm just using like a brown powder. It's matte, so there's no shine on it. You can also use a cream. There's many different palettes you can use for contouring, but essentially it's just adding a little bit of depth. So I'll go right underneath Michelle's cheekbone here, and you could see how just that little swipe gave a little, ooh, little cut, kind of just defined her cheekbones even more. I'll also use it along the top of the forehead to kind of bring it all together. Sometimes the forehead tends to be a little darker anyway, so I'll use like a matte bronzer or something like that, because, it kind of gives a nice little glow around the perimeter of the face. And that's pretty much the gist of it. If you have a high forehead and you want to kind of bring it down, the contour basically recedes things. So it pushes it down. A darker color pushes it down, the highlight brings it up. So the other last thing that I wanted to do on her face was add highlight. You can also contour along here. For example, if you want to, contour, like kind of trim down your neck a little bit, or you want some more definition around your jawline, that area between your jaw and your neck, you can add a little bit there. Again, it should be very light. It should be blended so you cannot see it, because otherwise looks a little crazy if you ask me. It's a very fine art, contouring, and making it look natural for every day could be pretty challenging, but if you want to play with it, I feel like I'm old school, like, when I look at Instagram and social media now and see like all this makeup all over the face and these kind of masks and, white hair and brown hair, and I'm just like, no, don't do it. Keep it simple.
And
I'll
I
do
think
like
you've also shown by the placement of your blush, by the angle of your brow, by the, where you place your eyeliner, you are in effect creating different types of contours, right? You're playing with the visuals. And so you can do that without having to do that dark brown powder or the highlight. You're able to do that with just kind of the classic elements of a simple makeup look.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about, highlight and shadow. The whole face is highlight and contour, really.
Right.
But it's just taking it a step further when you start drawing, the brown and white stripes.
Yes.
So, no shame, all power to you. But I personally think for everyday quick makeup, like A little highlight actually goes a long way, especially if you have drier skin.
Yeah,
Adding that little extra glow to the face could be really fun and could be just
agreed.
exactly what you need. Something like this, which is a cream luminizer. You could even just put that on your lids, on the top of your cheek, and you'll feel that, radiant skin instantly.
I love that. And
Last,
that can be so uplifting when you're not feeling well, when it's the winter and you have the blahs and you just need to make yourself feel a little like spring. That goes a long way.
absolutely. Last, I'm going to do a little lip and just choosing a shade that's close to her natural lip color, but with a little bit of pink to it. I'm personally a fan of a bright lip, as you can see, because there's just nothing that brightens up your face faster than just like a quick swipe of a bright lipstick. So I always try to get all my clients in the perfect red or pink.
It's challenging, right? This is another one where you have to do so much playing around to find what works with the undertones of your skin. And you can really overanalyze it, or you can just go for a color that makes you happy.
That one. We were just talking about color tones and like which the color families that you're supposed to be wearing, and I'm
Right.
like, I don't believe in all that stuff. I just think, choose a color, you put it on, it feels good on you. It doesn't matter if you're a winter, a spring, a fall,
Yeah,
just put it on and wear it, So it
love it.
doesn't have to be complicated. One thing I do say about like a brighter lip is if you're a little bit shy about going with a bright like red or pink, like a traditional lipstick, do a gloss, something sheer that just gives you that little bit of
Yes.
color, brightens up your face, but doesn't feel overpowering and, doesn't make you feel really self-conscious. So that's her
Gorgeous.
look for today.
Michelle, you are so radiant.
Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love it is not overdone. It's so understated. Going out in natural light, I can see it just looking so effortless. It doesn't look like you're going out for like a nighttime party or anything like too overdone. It's just simple and it looks amazing. It's just what we were looking for.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm going to let Michelle go now. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
being here.
Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
welcome. Thank you.
And thank you so much. If I was going to change that at all for the holidays, I would add like a darker liner or maybe a red lip or some lashes. So if you're going from, the office to a party or something like that, there's just like little kind of tweaks that you can do just to kind of like jazz it up a little bit. But typically that's what I would do for an everyday makeup. Just keep it simple, clean. It's really about just like looking like you with a little bit of extra something. You don't want makeup to be, transformative to the fact of where people are like, who's that? You just really want to feel like yourself. So adding those few little things, I think it can make a big difference. And in the seasons, as seasons change, our skin changes. So we may swap out different types of textures. You might choose a powder foundation for the summer and a creamier, heavier foundation for the winter. Or vice versa. It really just depends on what your skin needs. So that's the most important thing to keep in mind for seasonal changes. We also get inspired by, styles. So in fall, we tend to go towards like darker colors. So you might try like a more burgundy lip or like a plummy eyeshadow. Those tend to be really popular. The holidays kind of brings about like gold and shimmery and, so just kind of have fun with it.
And once you have that basic look and the basic skills you went over with us tonight, you really can play, right? Because you have the canvas, you have that the kind of the foundation for being able to change it for what your mood is or what season it is, and that's why it's so great.
Absolutely.
Now, we
Yes.
don't totally have time to go through stores and shopping information, but in our downloadable beauty guide, you can get store recommendations. We have makeup brand recommendations in there, and Rebecca and I align on so many of our brands and products, so you'll get a lot of synergy in there. And of course, your link is going to have lots of the specific products that you used.
Absolutely.
Other questions that we had, what products are necessary? Do we need primers? I think you kind of went through, it really has to be what works for you, right? Play around with your skin, what works best on you. Would you add anything to that?
No, I think that's absolutely true. Primers, I'm not a fan of either. I think it's kind of an extra step, an extra thing. They're typically used if you want the makeup to last longer, if you want to change the kind of underlying, canvas of the skin. There's glowy primers, there's mattifying primers. They're not particularly a skincare item. So again, it's not something I would use in everyday makeup unless you felt like you needed it because makeup was not wearing well on you or you needed to wear it for many hours, like as in a wedding or something like that. But
Right.
otherwise, for every day, I say keep it simple.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for walking us through that beautiful look. I think we all took something away, and when we go and do our makeup next, we're going to feel a little elevated and a little more skilled. And did you have a closing that you wanted to lead us through?
Yeah, just I wanted to thank you all so much for having me here today. Thank you for allowing me to share with your community. It's so wonderful being with you all. And I hope that you got a little bit of inspiration from this. I would love to be able to serve you in the future. If you're interested in booking a one-on-one, we'll follow up with, some options there. I would love to offer everyone in the community a free consultation with me if you're interested in learning more about what makeup products would work best for you and your skin tone and type and lifestyle and all the things. So
Absolutely. That's an incredible offer. And yes, you can get so much personalization from a one-on-one consultation. So thank you so much. And I know we could do many more events with how many questions we've had, how many different ways we could spin a makeup look, but this was the perfect introduction and overview. Thank you so much for being here, Rebecca.
thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna close. There's Sue.
Yeah, I gotta take off my glasses because they're all funny with this light I have. Rebecca, that was wonderful. And, a lot of our community, they talked about going through treatment and their skin is dry and, the eyebrows, you heard a lot of questions about eyebrows, right? And
Mhm.
these are all things that I know, even as a 21-year survivor, I still have trouble with eyebrows, right? And your skin tone. But I think you really did a beautiful job on touching on some of the things that we can do for our skin to brighten it up or when it's dry or, tapping in that beautiful highlight so that you're
Yeah.
not looking as sick. It's that experimenting. And even if you can go back, this is the audience that is, and sort of listen with that lens on for you now after you watched it, that some of the takeaways that Rebecca was able to give us can really transfer over to that skin that might be dry from treatment or the eyebrows that need drawn on. Like
Mhm.
I remember my mom drawing on her eyebrows and she didn't have to, but she did. She did. It was a thing then, right? But now we have a couple skills that we can sort of think about how to do that and not having lashes and how to utilize the eyeliner or the powder or the waterline just to brighten a little bit. So we definitely understand that and I appreciated you going through this in a way that I think could match for a lot of our women, or a lot of our women's skin type.
I'm so happy to hear that. That's so wonderful. And now I'm looking at the comments. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have seen these when I was talking. So fun. We need a follow up.
Yeah, I
We'll
I
hold you to
agree.
it.
I actually said that to Aaron. I said, "Oh, we need a follow up. We need a follow up." What a beautiful job you did, and definitely have some great takeaways. I know there were some products that possibly aren't on your list, so maybe we'll just touch base with you, Rebecca, and you can give us those. We like to send a list out afterwards to all the people who are on that might have missed, I think, the oil or the mist, like some of these great products. They are very much in tune. They're like, oh, I want that, right?
Oh, yes,
So,
exactly. I realized that I didn't add the brushes and I didn't add the skincare. So I will do that as soon as we finish here.
oh, perfect. And then
I
we
will
can
update the
utilize
list.
that link. Oh, perfect, 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 perfect.
Same
Thank
link, same link.
Perfect, perfect. Jolene, beautiful host. Thank you. We appreciate you.
You. Yeah, just to remind everyone, so with something like a facial oil, there are so many options at different budgets. So the Live Botanical one is gorgeous. Acure also offers one, a sponsor that we have been linked in with for a long time. So don't be afraid to look around, find something that you enjoy, maybe the smell of the botanicals. I think there was a question about pore clogging with oils, but
There was.
for the most part, if it's not something heavy like a coconut or castor, you're going to be just fine because these oils are formulated to be light for your skin to absorb well. And remember, you only need like 3 drops, warm it in your fingers like Rebecca did, and kind of press it in, and you will be golden as a makeup base. So it matters sometimes less the specific brand than just that you use them, you apply them well, and like there's room for any budget there.
So good. Jolene, I actually put your guide in the chat. So
Great.
Jolene has done so much work with us. She is our beauty expert on staff. She has been with us doing all kinds of tutorials and checking products. And so I did put that in the chat. Please check it out. You'll not only get a beautiful guide, not even for you, if you have a teenager, we have a guide for teens
Right.
too. But you also get some tutorials as well. So we have a great deal on the blog. I'm always so happy when somebody asks a question like nail care, Erin, and we just did it, so we
One of those.
pop that right in the chat. Yeah.
Great.
Amazing. Well,
Thank
thank
A
you.
you.
copy of the
Thank you
chat,
both.
Erin, right? We can download a copy of the chat, right? And put that in.
Yeah, Kathy, I can email that to you.
Yeah.
And if you want to reach out to me directly, I can get that to you, Kathy. I'll put my email in the chat.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Another
All
good
right.
segment. Beautiful.
Good night, everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Good
all
night.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
think
Be
we'll all be
well.
shopping this weekend. We'll all be doing our shopping and
I
Yes.
pulled it up
getting our
already. I'm like,
deliveries. Oh, it's
yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
And I
yeah,
am familiar with a lot of her brands, and I just, definitely align with Jolene. Jolene has taught us well. Jolene has taught us
absolutely.
well
Of
over the years.
Yep.
course.
So we'll include that link with the recording, which I
Yeah.
know we had a question that should be up on our video library as early as tomorrow. So if you visit uniteforher.org/UFH Connect, you'll see Rebecca's link to her shop her shelf, including the link to Rebecca's website as well, along with the recording of tonight's segment.
Yeah, wonderful. One last thing I wanted to leave you with, only because we had such a beautiful, engaged community. If any of you want to hear your voices be heard, we do some interviews during Giving Tuesday. So I'm going to put my email in the chat if you would like our team to just do a quick interview and sort of share about the Unite for Her community. We're doing some recorded ones on December the 1st, and then we're doing them live as well on December the 2nd. So if interested, I actually put that out last night, got a few that came through, so I thought, oh, I'll do it again. And it's
Great.
always nice to hear a different lens from our community as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yep, perfect.
All
And
right,
then join
Erin.
us next week. Join us next
Yeah.
week. We have our speaker series Tuesday, virtual hangout Wednesday, clinical trial focus 6 p.m. Eastern time on Zoom. And then our dietitian team is cooking up your holiday table on Wednesday. So join us for our virtual hangout at 5 p.m. Eastern, just in time for the Thanksgiving holiday. We love being with you in the kitchen. So join us next week. And of course, all of our education events are available on our video library, and we'll put that link in the chat as well.
Yeah. And we just want to thank our sponsors one more time. So they have been extraordinary for our community and for this UFH Connect. Our presenting sponsors are Weston, Merck, Lilly, Gilead, and Novartis, with gold sponsors GSK, Pfizer, Daiichi Sankyo, and supporting sponsors TerraSera, AbbVie, and Veristem. We can't thank them enough. They are truly a partner of ours all year long and enable us to bring such great, incredible speaking segments like we had tonight. So a shout out for them.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you
All
so
right,
much for
Erin.
joining us. Thank you to our
Yeah,
amazing hosts and experts, and everyone enjoy the
perfect.
rest of your night. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Get that lip on. Get that lip on.
I love that.
Doesn't matter the color. Heard it from the
No.
expert. Whatever makes you feel
Hmm.
good.
That's
I
right.
love it. I love it.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Good
Yeah.
night. Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you all.